Welcome to The Prize Inside. The Prize Inside. A chiropractor's journey in everyday holistic health and vitality. Here, your host, Dr. Jeremy Myers, delves into the remarkable journeys of everyday people who have embraced the path to health and healing. Through his practice, Dr. Jeremy encounters inspiring stories of profound transformation and the power of true healing within each of us. Stay tuned as we discuss various holistic topics and unlock the healing potential that lies within us all.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome. Hopefully my mute is going well. Let me check. Let me just make sure all is good. Okay. Sounds good to me. Okay. So how are you guys doing tonight? Oh, man. I should fix my hair before I come on here. Just kidding. So how is everybody tonight? Hopefully we'll have a good, interesting one. Amy might come. She might not. It depends on child. You know how that works. So tonight we're going to talk about something interesting, something that I'm very passionate about. I would love in my world to not have people have to take pain medicine every single day. And this is what I'm talking about, pain medicine. I'm talking about the easy stuff. I'm talking about the over-the-counter, 5 or 6 of these a day. You know, you hear it a lot, aspirin, Tylenol, all those kind of aspects to it. So tonight's about what we can do, you know, in that realm. So there's a lot, and tonight will be kind of, I think, pretty eye-opening. And then from that aspect, we'll go and you know, like, ask questions. So make sure you're asking a lot of questions as we go. One of the things is that I want to see, you know, one of the joys of chiropractic is to see somebody that is taking chronic, let's say, aspirin 3 times a day, and all of a sudden they don't have to take it anymore because they've taken on that chiropractic lifestyle. They've started doing things to improve themselves or enhance themselves. And when you start doing those kind of things, the situation is fantastic, right? So the situation is, you know, you start seeing it and it just brings a smile to your face because you don't know what you don't know. You know, and so a lot of times those kind of situations will be so good for us in the long term. So that's what tonight's about. And I have 4 things I found this week in the old. So if you're not subscribed to him, I would highly recommend Dr. Mercola. Dr. Mercola, I'll put it in the comments actually. If you can find him, he has a great website. Has another one called Substack, like I do. He has a lot of good information, man. So there's a lot of good articles that could really help you understanding. One of my favorite go-to places for articles is that area. So like, and I know in the past before he got attacked a little bit a while ago. Oh man, I don't know who my Facebook user is, but yes, I love him. It's fantastic. So a lot of times with Dr. Mercola, he got attacked for a while, but now it's he has a Substack, which if you know that app, then that's something to get on as well, because there's a lot of great articles, a lot of good people there. Also his website too. So this is where a lot of my articles come from, because he constantly is getting more and more information. Okay, so these are the 4 things that I found this week prior to what we're going to discuss tonight. So there are now 40 studies that have proven that gardening transforms your mental health and quality of life. So now it's not just one study, it's not just a thought process as we go. It is 40 different studies. So maybe this is something you should get into. Get into flower gardens, vegetable gardens. We loved it this year. This was probably our best year of gardening ever. Now that the kids aren't in as many things in the summertime, it was fantastic. Now the winter gets us all excited about what we're going to do for next year. So that's pretty cool. Like as you go forward, you don't have to be a crazy gardener where you got all the stuff, but you can do some, right? And then figure out something you really like. This one's near and dear to my heart because I see it a lot in a lot of men. Beer and cider increase the risks of gout. Okay. That's right, Julie. This increases the risk of gout. So beer and ciders increase your risk of gout. This, if somebody understands what gout is, horrific condition. If somebody has it, it's terrible. Chiropractic, I've seen this many, many times. Gout is no joke. It inflames and it inflames. I've seen it. Somebody thinks they broke their ankle, as swollen as it can get. So that is another huge piece to the puzzle, like as you go. But beer and cider, we tend to know it kind of gets those cells kind of activated, especially beer. Usually the old way to think about gout attacks were after a baseball game, because you'd have, you have your hot dog, which isn't made of the best stuff, and then a beer on top of it, and then you'd have gout the next day. So just remember that beer and cider increase that risk of gout if it's on a chronic thing. One that I was excited to find was quercetin. Okay, so quercetin, in my world, it's one of these supplements that I always do for flu time, because of, so my series, if you've seen this before, vitamin C, D, it's called VASES. So you have vitamin A, C, E, selenium. So you have a lot of these different ones for flus and viruses and all those kind of things. Well, I always add quercetin and quinine to allow that to be in your cells. The quinine lets the ZASES. That's what I meant. Zinc, vitamin A, C, E, selenium, if you say it that way, vitamin D, make sure your D is right. And then you have selenium and quercetin. Okay. I'm sorry, quinine and quercetin. So quinine allows the zinc to get in your cells a little better. Quercetin does a ton of good stuff in the immune system, but they found it also does. And so quercetin's found in a lot of fruits and veggies. So it's one of those very easy supplements on you, but it's a flavonoid found in fruits and vegetables, and it helps relieve, it decreases free radicals in your body. It's anti-inflammatory. It can lower blood pressure. And it has some anti-cancer things that they're not sure about totally. And it's great for diabetes management, which is awesome. So it has a ton of benefits, and it's in most fruits and vegetables. So making sure that you get that in your diet is a good thing. Some of those powdered green supplements are a really good idea. Okay. And then the last one before we start tonight's thing is, we kind of knew this, but there's another study that says ginkgo biloba is super good for brain health. So remember that as you go. Ginkgo, great for brain health. Make sure you're getting it in there, making sure you're getting smarter. I'm just kidding. We all need that brain stuff. If you've seen Parkinson's, dementia, all those kind of situations, we want to do stuff prior to that. Okay. All right. Just want to make sure you guys are rolling with that. All right, here we go. So taking a pill, or if you know somebody taking a pain pill every day, today's presentation is for you. All right, so I'm going to see if, Hopefully everybody's having a great day. It's kind of crazy how my all right, good. Our time has moved because it got super dark outside. All right. Where did it go? Okay. Shoot. Okay, hang on. Sorry, guys. They were having issues before. Add file from Google Slides. It's a really cool streaming service, but they were having a major thing last week on. And if not, okay. So we're just going to go into, I'm going to just screen share. So present screen share. Okay. All right, here we go. So what we're going to do, I'm not going to be able to see the chat as much. So I apologize for that up front, but we'll get to it. Okay. So taking a pill every day, let's fix that. All right. So here we go. So what are we going to go over tonight? An understanding of what taking over the counter pain meds actually does to your body. Okay. This is the biggest key to tonight. A simple strategy to make a change and herbs you can use to help in a holistic way. And some other things that I threw in there as well. All right. So let's talk first on what happens when we have this chronic pain med use. Okay. So this is a very chronic problem, very, very big in our society. So as we talk about this stuff, it's almost commonplace and almost not, I don't want to say bragging about it. You don't mean to, but it's so common that we don't even think about it. Okay. So NSAIDs, they have a lot of troubling side effects. NSAIDs are kind of like your chronic pain stuff. You can have ones that are over the counter, and then you have ones that are prescribed. They're called non-steroidal anti-inflammatories. Okay. So non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, and they work really, really well. But there's a lot of things that can happen when we have to do this in a chronic use scenario. It is NSAIDs, all that entire category of drugs is the most common drug class associated with hospitalizations for heart issues, heart attack, stroke, bleeding, and kidney failure. So that's kind of a big issue, like as you go, if that is the number one, drug class. Basically, there's a lot of NSAIDs. You can kind of name them, the things that you got to take when you're in pain, inflammation, those kind of things. The major one in NSAIDs, though, is definitely kidney damage. If somebody's on a chronic use of NSAID situation, their kidney damage rate can increase from 60 to 150% increase in risk. So that's something to majorly be like watching as you go. The next one that's a big one is gastric bleeding. So gastric bleeding is like stomach bleeding, your intestines bleeding, and that is also hooked to long-term NSAID use. So these are very, very big problems in our society, but the NSAID use is very, very common. Liver complications. So liver complications is another one, especially with the over-the-counter ones, because of what they're actually made of. The chemistry within it had the liver has a hard time with the chemistry makeup to keep it on a shelf for as long as they do. And one that's kind of lingering that's there, NSAIDs also limit you in your healing in your ligaments. Okay, so your ligaments have a harder time with improving as you go. All right, so let's talk about what happens with chronic pain medicine uses. Okay, so this is where it gets very simple, but understanding that it's there, right? And it's okay. We just have to figure out ways, alternative ways to figure out how to do this. No medicine was ever designed technically to be over for a really long time, like everyday type situations. And I want to go through those kind of aspects right now. The most for us in the holistic perspective, one of the worst things about these drugs is they're super effective. Okay. They're super, super effective in what they do. They block pain really, really well. They get rid of inflammation really, really well. And one of the problems with that is that you start to block your natural signals or self-awareness. So one of the biggest problems that we see is if you don't understand what your body's doing in one part or another, then that signal that's skewed. And we use the analogy of your oil light in your car turns on, right? So you got a nice, beautiful new Corvette and the oil light comes on. Let's say this thing cost, well, we were just talking about it. A new car costs like $85,000 at this point, right? So imagine your new $85,000 Corvette comes out on the market and you got the oil light that turns on. Is there any possibility that you would put a piece of duct tape over that oil light and keep driving it? No. So, but what do we do in our human body? We do that all the time. We take something, we block the duct tape, we duct tape right over the signal, right? And that's what's most concerning to a lot of holistic people, because then you don't see the process actually come out and say, okay, what is happening because we block that self-awareness? So not only are we putting a chemical in our body, but we are also, the chemical is so effective at blocking the signals, it leads to further injury. Okay. So I see this on a regular basis. If I can get somebody hurts their back, okay, so an acute low back situation, somebody tweaks, sprains their lower back, they start taking NSAIDs. The NSAIDs are working, but they go back to work, right? So they continue back to work because it's working. Well, because the signal's blocked, it's like running, the truck, right? You're going into work, and let's say your pickup truck is your work. It's like running back and forth with that oil light on, but you're just ignoring that oil light. Eventually, by ignoring it, with the body allowing you to do this with this chemical we put in, it creates a major, major problem. And so that is where a lot of times, if I can teach people to use it because you need it, but do something about that pain, then we can get a lot further than what we, normally do. One of the things that we noticed and I've seen this in my practice, actually, some people are so used to taking that you're not like aspirin. Let's use just aspirin. So I have a patient that, before she saw me, she literally had to take 6 Tylenol a day, 3 in the morning, 3 at night. And she had done that actually for 25 years. So this is no joke of a situation. That's how long some people have done that. 3 in the morning, 3 at night. 3 in the morning, 3 at night. Where she comes in, so I'll tell you this story. So she comes in for maybe the first time ever, if I remember correctly, and we want to get rid of these headaches. So we start to do our normal thing. She'd tell me, yeah, I take occasional, aspirin, those kind of things. So we start adjusting her. And as we adjust her, she feels like we're gaining, the muscles are relaxing a little bit. The balance is coming back in the chiropractic way, but we never could get to the headache part. And it was like, man, we cannot clear this headache. And for all the stuff that we did chiropractically, we thought we should be able to do that. Well, lo and behold, I said, listen, this one's a little harder. Let's go get some testing. So like she already had this plan of going to a big place. It was close to us. It's called University of Michigan. They even have a giant headache clinic. And so she ends up going to this headache clinic, and I don't see her for like 2 months. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Maybe it's just something, maybe they said not to do the chiropractic or whatever. Right. So So then she comes back and she said, "Did you miss me?" I go, "Well, where have you been?" And she's like, "Well, they had to lock, they actually literally kept her over there for like, I think it was a week, where they kept monitoring her. She was having what they call rebound headaches. So rebound headaches are where you've taken so much of these NSAIDs that the body starts to live on them. And without the NSAIDs, the NSAIDs were literally causing the headache to happen to get the next set of NSAIDs. So she had to basically, do one of these detoxes on the NSAID itself. And that was what the fascination was of the whole situation. So it's one of those where just remember that as we go, some of these chronic chemicals or these chronic medications that you get on, what are they doing to you as far as your function of your human body? And rebound headaches is something that's now in every book. It happens all the time. The other big thing is just understanding homeostasis. So homeostasis is our balance, right? So if we have no pain triggers, then how the heck are we going to know our balance structure, right? So if we don't have the good days and the bad, right? We just have good days. That's going to cause a rift in our ability to handle our physiology within. So just letting you understand what that chronic pain can do and how hard it is really to get off of it. And that's why I wanted to talk about tonight, because there are some good options, but no one thinks that way as far as it goes usually. Okay. So let's talk about so we've heard all the bad stuff. So that's fine, right? So what can we do? What can we do about this stuff? Like there's got to be some really cool things. And this is where I love what I do for a living, because I get to see this on a regular basis with many that have never discovered, what chiropractic and chiropractic philosophy does. So what we can do to stop taking these meds every day. One is learn what they call RICE. So rest, ice, compression, elevation. If you hurt yourself, you got a headache, you do all these things. Sometimes icing an area, compressing on it, putting pressure, right? Resting when that occurs can help a ton. Very simple, but sometimes we eat the pain med first before we do these kind of situations, where the ultimate way that I would like to see you do it is do this first, see if that resolves, where you're resting your body. You're icing the area that is like, let's say it's a headache, ice your neck, ice your head, those kind of things. Now they make these cool like ice caps, and I've heard that it's a game changer. We're probably going to try to sell them on we got our store kind of lined up. I'm pretty excited about, but we'll have that in this little store as well because they work so good. But this like ice cap you can get on Amazon, a lot of different places. It has ice and it compresses. So then that headache can go away a lot better. Now, the big thing is don't take the pill, right? See how your body does without that pill, right? And so that's where the RICE is a very good tool before you have to get into that. The other one is find out why the pain is happening, right? One of our biggest things is we don't seek this out, because these NSAID drugs are very, very effective, probably the most effective on the market, because it's such a big company. They're such a lucrative, you're talking billions of dollars, like the higher up NSAIDs where, you start getting into the major stuff. It's billions, like of dollars. So when you do that, it's hard when you're making billions and to ask the question, why is that problem there? If you know what I mean. So we really have a hard time in understanding why is the pain happening? And there's lots of cool ways to do that. Sometimes you'll need a chiropractic physician to figure that out. Is it nutritional? Is it physical? Is it mental? Like what we talked about. Is it one of the three? Is it thoughts? Is it toxins? Is it traumas? It's one of those, right? So once you've those two things could be two of the major things you do. Physical medicine treatments. Okay. So physical medicine treatments are some examples: chiropractic, like massage, acupuncture, movement exercises. These are all things that get your physical body involved to physically take away some of these chronic pain issues. Okay. Physical medicine tells you a lot. It's diagnostic as it's doing it. And so a lot of times when you're able to do these different treatment aspects, you can get down to the why a lot easier. But there's so many options in how to combine these situations, different chiropractic techniques. You don't have to if you're hurting and you're worried about like chiropractic adjustment, there's tons of ways to do a really easy chiropractic adjustment where it's not actually going to hurt. Right. So these are things. One of my favorite things that's happened in the last, probably, I want to say 7-8 years, is that we have some access. I hope it'll get better and better as we go, but we are actually accessing veterans. Veterans never had, this is crazy, guys. Veterans did not have chiropractic for active military or retired. It's nuts. They had to pay cash. This is like, let's say 11, 12 years ago. Unbelievable that that's even a thing, right? So they could not get chiropractic. They didn't have any chiropractic coverage in any way, which is insane. Now, about 2016-ish, they started getting care. Now, the coolest part of this is most of these people were living on NSAIDs. They had to, because there was just no other way. They're in pain all the time. They have a lot of the thoughts, toxins, trauma that would cause chronic pain issues to come up. And so a lot of times, one of my favorites by far is still, in my veterans world, because of how many have changed. I could tell you so many stories on it, and one of these days I might grab one of my veterans, my younger veterans, and ask him, if he'd come on and, tell everybody his story. But I remember one guy that I have, super special guy. He's just awesome. He was in a helicopter accident that put him in a coma for 3 weeks. And when he got out, this is years and years after he's been out, he had to get pain injections in his neck once a week, and I cringe at that, thinking, and he was so young to have that happen, that you would have to have these pain injections, in his neck. Well, because of this cool aspect of chiropractic being referred, where I actually get to meet the guy, we go through the whole thing, and we could control it. Not great, because he had so much, and he had done these pain injections and pain things for so long. It was going to take major time to reverse that stuff. So it's not overnight, like when you make these changes, and when somebody's done chronic pain meds for a really long time, it is definitely a process and a journey to get them off of it. Okay. So let's talk about some herbals. I love this. And because I can't see a lot, let me see. I'm going to stop sharing for a sec just to make sure. All right. Cool. All right. So, yeah. So that's I think I got something happening in the old chat there, but whatever. Okay. So yeah. So a lot of times when you're looking at situations, as we're going forward with some of these different herbals, just remember there's a lot of options for this area. Herbs and musculoskeletal are huge different situations. So just remember that as we go, when we start looking into this different process. Okay. So what I'm going to do is go back into screen share and understand there's tons of these good guys. All right. So here we go. So herbal remedies that are for the first line, we call it the starter pack. Okay. So in acute injury, we would use this stuff as well. But here's the thing. like a lot of times the reason Tylenol, aspirin, all these like over-the-counter NSAIDs, they work really well and they're very, very accessible. So one of the things we got to do tonight is to get us to create an accessible herbal cabinet, right? So it's one of those where if the herbal remedy is as accessible as the NSAID is, then we have, it can be very, very good. Okay. So we're looking at, there's painkiller, muscle relaxers, anti-inflammatories, like within the herbal world. And so the one that I love that works pretty well, now some it doesn't work at all. So there's other options, but the first pain one is white willow bark. White willow bark as a supplement, we have several different kinds. Is natural aspirin essentially. So white willow bark is something that you can take. The nice thing about white willow bark is as you're moving towards this chronic, like undoing these chronic pain situation, you can use it as you go forward, and use it more often than you would even use a chronic aspirin or a chronic Tylenol or whatever, as you go forward. So it's nice because it doesn't hurt you. You can have a lot of this stuff, but white willow bark's really, really good. Another one I really like, because a lot of those, is chamomile. So chamomile, I love this as a muscle relaxer. There are other ones, some to add to that. Valerian is another good one. Hops is actually a really good muscle relaxer. So if chamomile doesn't do it for you, which it can, though, it absolutely can. It's one of the nicest on your body, as you go. It can be fantastic. So just remember that. But chamomile is not only a great muscle relaxer, but it's also a great antispasmodic, anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial, a bitter, or carminative, a menagogue. Remember what these are. Carminative is it cuts into the gas, right? A menagogue helps with gallbladder bile, right? A bitter allows increased digestion, and a nervine, which is relaxing the nerve. So it has a ton of stuff that you can take instead of an NSAID, your go-to over-the-counter NSAID. All right. So herbal remedies that are first. So let's say, the other herbal remedies I really like is devil's claw. Devil's claw is a very good anti-inflammatory for the musculoskeletal system, but it also has a nice pain situation as well. So we've done, like if people are asking, we have some really good luck with people, replacing their old aspirin habit into the devil's claw, which is fantastic. You can use creams as well. Remember how I said physical medicine's a big deal in pain? A lot of times that's one thing that happens. If we can actually like rub things into our situation, it can be fantastic. So like topical creams are really good. We have an emu cream, magnesium. Okay. So we have a magnesium cream that's fantastic. And the reason the magnesium cream is just a game changer, girl at the office, Dr. Emily, got us hooked to this stuff. For some reason, magnesium has a nice pain level. It reduces pain, especially in muscles. So magnesium cream can be another really, really good one. But there's also, so we use this one called emu cream that's really good for the pain aspect. Arnica is really good for muscle rehab, which is, arnica is like an herb, but you use it in a topical. And then you have, magnesium cream. So a lot of these different creams are really, really worth the try. But you want to make sure you have these available in your cabinet of things to have, because that makes it easy, because headaches hit random. We don't know when they're going to hit. That's one of the problems with all these different situations, is that you want something when the pain is there, or else you're going to have to get the over-the-counter NSAID. Okay, so tonight we are looking at what are we going to do for a 1% improvement. Get these herbals in your house. Get some ice pack, compression ice packs on your head, your caps, all those kind of situations. It will be fantastic. as you move and shape, like keep movement going, find out why the headache's happening or the pain is happening. And maybe try these herbals prior to, grabbing the NSAID, and maybe we can get you off of that stuff. Wouldn't that be awesome? Very cool. That is amazing. So, yes. Well, hopefully you guys enjoyed tonight. It came a little quicker. One thing before we go, I want to get the other thing I want you to do is let me get. Oh, I know where I could go. Okay, hang on. I always want to do this. From last week, we had our exercise, or we did our podcast on bringing out strategies for athletes. It was really good for everyone. So I want to make sure I'm putting that in there, and become a subscriber on the Rumble channel. And then you can see all the different videos we've been doing on there. And so that'll help a little bit, as we go. But I'm going to refresh this and it will be good, which is awesome. And then, yeah, so hopefully everybody enjoyed it tonight. I feel like this is an important one, more important than we realize. It seems like such a small thing, but it's like the gateway. It's like the gateway to understanding how this stuff works. And if I can switch your mind into a situation where we are actually, taking herbals instead of the daily aspirin or Tylenol, life is going to be so much better. And it's going to be, it's pretty cool. Like, and it's it's a small step in a journey, but man, it can be powerful, like then you can start looking at other herbs that might help you in different ways. So I'm hoping you enjoyed this. This was fantastic. And, after the recording goes, leave some questions. I'll be more than happy on later, and we'll go from there. Okay. So with that, I bid you adieu. Have a great night.